Ever read a play and just felt entirely lost? Like, what are these characters actually thinking? Why are they making such bizarre decisions? Well, let's dive right into this explainer and crack the code. Today, we're focusing on how to decode drama by analyzing setting and character. It's titled Make Connections, Setting and Character, the Governess. We're going to unpack the exact skills you need to become a master reader of dramatic texts. Think of yourself as a literary detective, where the script itself is your star witness.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the stormy train station, move into making connections with evidence, look at setting pressures on choices, and inferring traits in drama. Finally, we'll wrap up with the check your understanding and our recap and transfer task.
Section 1. The stormy train station. So, to completely avoid spoiling the actual text of The Governess for those who haven't read it yet, we've cooked up our own little sandbox scene. Imagine this unfolding on a stage. The script says, the train station is dimly lit. Rain lashes violently against the tall glass windows. The arrival board flashes, delayed. A new caretaker paces frantically. Boom. Before a single word is even spoken, these stage directions hit you with a tense, ticking clock mood. Your brain should instantly pick up on those rich sensory details. The dim lighting, the aggressive rain, that universally agonizing flashing, delayed sign. It completely sets the emotional temperature of the room.
Now watch what happens when our character actually speaks. The caretaker says, "I can't be late on my very first day, not with a storm like this." Wow, talk about sheer panic, right? I mean, we've all been there, desperately wanting to make a good first impression while the universe literally throws a storm at you. This brief moment brilliantly sets up her immediate, super relatable problem and this immense internal anxiety, all handed to us in just 2 short lines of text.
Moving on to Section 2, Making Connections with Evidence.
Whenever we read a tense scene, our brains naturally try to make sense of it by connecting it to things we already know. The first type is text-to-self, connecting the drama to your own personal lived experiences. Think about it for a second. Remember a time you felt incredibly anxious while stuck in awful weather? Or that terrifying stomach-dropping feeling of running late on your first day of middle school? Recalling that exact feeling is a text-to-self connection that instantly helps you empathize with our panicked caretaker.
Next, we've got text-to-text. This is where you connect the current drama to another book, movie, poem, or play you've seen. Like, maybe this reminds you of a thriller you just watched where the characters are trapped in a creepy, isolated mansion during a blizzard. Linking the stormy train station to that movie thriller? That's a text-to-text connection. It actually helps your brain predict what dramatic tropes might pop up next based on patterns you already know.
And the third type is text-to-world, which is connecting the drama to broader world events or human history. You might think about how major historical storms have literally paralyzed real-world transportation grids, or you could think about the universal pressure of employment. In the adult world, missing a train on your first day doesn't just mean a tardy slip. It could literally mean losing your job. That connects our caretaker's panic directly to very real economic pressures happening all over the globe.
But here is a huge trap students fall into all the time, so listen close. You might think, well, I personally hate storms, so the author definitely meant for this scene to be terrifying. No way. A personal connection never, ever proves the author's intent on its own. Instead, you want to think, my personal dislike of storms helps me understand her panic, but I have to actually use her spoken dialogue to prove the author's intent. Your connection is amazing for your own understanding, but you got to pair it with concrete script evidence to make a valid claim.
All right, Section 3, Setting Pressures on Choices.
Now that we know how to anchor our connections with hard evidence, let's look at how the environment actively forces our character's hand. In a play, the setting is never just a pretty painting hanging in the background. It's an active participant. The fierce storm and the delayed train act as these massive, unavoidable external pressures. They function almost like an invisible villain, actively forcing the caretaker into the state of anxious waiting. What choices does she even have left? She can't fight the weather, she definitely can't physically push a massive locomotive. The setting is actively pressuring her, limiting her choices and heightening her reactions.
Next up, Section 4, Inferring Traits in Drama. Understanding those environmental pressures lets us look much closer at the character herself, making deep inferences based purely on how the playwright built the script. We got to look at all the moving parts. First, dialogue. From the line, "I can't be late on my very first day," we can safely infer she's a responsible but anxious person who really cares about her job. Then, action. Pacing frantically,
That tells us she's stressed and just vibrating with nervous energy. And finally, stage directions. Clutching a set of heavy keys tells us she's prepared, but maybe metaphorically burdened by this huge new responsibility. You literally have to look at dialogue, action, and stage directions all together to prove your character inferences.
Which brings us to Section 5. Check your understanding.
Time to put your detective hats on. True or false? Your personal text-to-self connection is enough to prove the author's intended mood for a scene. Think back to that misconception buster we just did. Does your personal experience alone prove the author's grand plan? Got your answer?
False. Absolutely false. While your personal connections are super valuable for your own empathy and understanding, you must always anchor your analysis in the text. Claims have to be paired with undeniable script evidence. Evidence is literally your best friend here.
Okay, let's try another one based on the mechanics of a script. Which dramatic element actually told us the caretaker was holding a set of heavy keys? Think about how a play looks on the page. Was it her dialogue? Her actions? If you said stage directions, you hit the nail on the head. In drama, you can't just rely on dialogue. Stage directions are vital because they tell the actors exactly what to do, what to hold, and how to physically embody that stress on stage. They're just as crucial as the spoken words.
Finally, Section 6. Recap and transfer task. Let's bring it all home with a strict 3-sentence recap of today's core standards. First, connections support understanding, but you must pair them with script evidence to prove intent. Second, a story setting creates external pressures that directly dictate a character's choices. Third, we infer character traits by analyzing dialogue, action, and stage directions together.
Now for your transfer task. I want you to apply this to an incredible premise from Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. Listen to this. 2 young gentlemen lead double lives, each pretending to be named Ernest to escape social duties. So, I challenge you to ask yourself right now, what character traits can you infer from people whose main action is to invent totally fake identities just to escape the intense social pressures of their setting? Think deeply about what that wild choice says about their sense of responsibility or the suffocating environment they live in. If a character goes through the trouble of inventing a whole new name just to avoid their daily life, what does that actually say about their world? Keep making those evidence-based connections, and you'll completely master any dramatic text that comes your way. Catch you next time on The Explainer, and happy reading.